Rarely do we ever see a game capitalize on its success as well as Blizzard does with its games. Now, a lot of companies could learn a lot from Blizzard by just simply looking and seeing how they capitalize on every opportunity that they get with their games, whether it be World of Warcraft, which is a really big one that many developers should start looking at, and rather than copying, analyze what Blizzard has been doing with the game and capitalize on their success rather than just trying to copy their success, if that makes any form of sense possible, or any form of sense at all. But what I'm trying to get into right now is Overwatch's new update, the Uprising, and how they're adding sort of a campaign or a lore experience co-op game mode that they're introducing in their game, and they are really capitalizing on their lore of their characters and getting the player immersed in their world. Now, in my personal preference, I do not believe that Overwatch should only be making these events temporary, as maybe one day I will wish to come back later and play these and earn loot boxes and gain experience and just have fun with my friends in an open co-op experience. Now, with that being said, I feel like Blizzard is understanding that a lot of people do want a PvE mode that sticks and stays throughout the whole game's lifespan. But I think that they're just releasing these game modes as more of a PvE demo, as it's not what they originally planned for the game to have PvE in it. But with many of Overwatch's fans speaking out and saying that we want something like a PvE mode, maybe even a raid type mode in the future, Blizzard is taking all their feedback and capitalizing on what they think that we really want, which is basically what we're telling them, and that's not a lot of things developers do these days. Now, I know that sounds really stupid to believe, but if you look at a few games, especially the early access games, a lot of those developers don't really pay too much attention to the community as much as Overwatch has done to theirs. A prime example of this is if you look back at DayZ, and when it first launched, there was so much hype behind it. And whether you just want to say the developers were lazy or that the community shot up the expectations that developers could never meet, it is undeniably the worst and one of the most disappointing games that I have ever seen in early access. Given all its hype and all its support, you would think a game with that much of a following would at least develop into a semi-decent game. Now, I know there's going to be a few of you out there that really do like DayZ and what it has to offer, and I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong for enjoying it or anything. I personally believe the ideas and the gameplay on paper feels very nice, and it just seems so awesome being a part of a community in a DayZ apocalypse. It feels really nice, especially when you first get in after watching all the YouTubers and whatnot kind of role play their way around the zombie apocalypse, and in that sense of the game, it is pretty much up there. I've had a lot of fun in DayZ in my about 181 hours I put into the game, and the only problem I really had with it was just how slow paced it was to get to those epic moments that are memorable to this day, even though you've experienced them like in 2012 and you can remember something like that 5 years later in its entirety. That is an amazing effect that DayZ can have on you. But the fact of the matter stands is that it's still an unfinished product, and that's really what I'm just trying to get across here. In conclusion today, you guys, I do feel it is important for developers to take a lot of community feedback and make patches and adjustments accordingly, but I do not feel like it is appropriate for a developer to be forced and pushed by the community to make changes that they are not comfortable with, or to steer the game in a different direction that they didn't originally intend, which creates unhealthy gameplay and an unhealthy development team. So it just doesn't work on both sides. At least that's in my opinion and experience between early access games and finished products such as DayZ and Overwatch, as I've been using those two examples in this video. On one hand, DayZ is an unfinished product and is kind of at a stalemate where it doesn't really know where it wants to go. It's kind of stagnated in its development, and it doesn't know what it wants to be. It doesn't know what direction it needs to go. And if you look at something on like Overwatch, if you look at a game like Overwatch, you will see that the game has a clear direction and never ceases to surprise its fans with different updates and modes and just competitive experiences. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.